Hey everyone, Temporal here, and today we are responding to a thread. We have a question, not so much a question from someone, but we'll treat it as one. Someone who lost 32 games in a row after coaching. This does occasionally happen to people. I won't bury the lead, it is tilt. What you're effectively looking at is you run into a scenario where someone either gets coaching or doesn't get coaching and make adjustments. They self adjust, go, hey, I'm going to make adjustments to my play style. I see that higher levels are doing this. I want to do this, or they're choosing to make a change to their gameplay. And that's, even if they're making a proper and correct adjustment to their gameplay, even if they got good coaching, even if what they're working on is correct, what's expected to happen is you lose a couple extra games when you are focused on something new, when you're trying to change something. Maybe you're changing your engagement timing. Maybe you're really thinking about how to use your ult and you're using your ult in a different way. Maybe you're intentionally like one tricking a play style even when the play style isn't correct. Whatever the case, but you're doing it and accepting it. Whatever, it doesn't matter. Even if what you're working on is correct, even if what you're doing is going to be an improvement to your gameplay, it's not at all unusual. Sometimes people just like immediately take off and be like, "Oh, made the change, it was fantastic." But it's not at all rare for people to lose a few extra games when they're using like 10, 15% of their brain power, or sometimes a little more, on a change. Couple extra games, that's fine though, because they're going to get better in the long run. The problem is, after you do that, if you lose a couple extra games just because you're focused on something, that's fine, you drop a little bit. And then you, after having made this adjustment, or while making this adjustment, also hit just the normal randomness of ladder. Your matches are made up of 12 people. Your matches are made up of 12 people, and even when you're playing great, even when you're playing at your level, you can lose 6 games in a row. You can lose 8 games in a row. It doesn't happen very often, but it is something that does happen. And if you trying to make an improvement happens to line up, and this does happen occasionally, with you hit a loss streak, just a normal loss streak, not a you're playing terribly loss streak, not a you're tilted loss streak, just a normal loss streak because, hey, you run into maybe there's a DC on the other side, maybe you lose a couple close games, or excuse me, maybe there's a DC on your side, maybe you lose a couple close games, maybe there's a Smurf. Doesn't really matter. You hit a normal loss streak, and it's not like you should have loss streaks every day of like 6 to 8 games, but they do happen, and it doesn't necessarily mean something's wrong. So then after this, you hit just sort of a normal loss streak. And then you're into a bit of a panic because you've had the occasional loss streak before, and that's no big deal. But you've now stacked maybe like 3 or 4 losses up here with maybe like 8 losses here. And maybe they weren't in a row. Maybe you got a couple wins here. But let's say you've gone like 3-12 or something. Or not, well, 3-12, not 3 out of 12. That's going to feel like, oh, you're a little worried, you're a little concerned. And now the demons show up. The demons show up in your mind and start to do the, oh no, what do I do? And this can go a couple different ways. You can run into a situation of going, well, now that I'm lower SR, I'll just hard carry my way back up. Well, hold on. If you went 3-12, you're not really that much lower SR. Yes, you've maybe lost a couple hundred points of SR, depending on how much you're gaining and losing per game, which has to do with a lot of things. But even if you've lost like 200 SR, you are not ready to just hard carry stomp on your opponents if you were previously at the correct place. But you might think you are. You might go, oh, well, the game is playing a little different. That's a different thing. You might be going, hey, I'm just going to, like, I lost 200 SR. I'm just going to hard carry my way back up. You are not ready if you've lost 200 SR, even if you just, play how you're playing this, go revert yourself back to before you made any changes. You are not ready to hard carry games and take over to get back up 200 SR. And if you disrespect your opponents more than you should, because they're only, say, 100, 200 SR worse than what you're used to, you're going to lose more games. So then you get more losses like that. And it doesn't have to go this way. At certain points in the ladder, you might not try to do this. You might then instead see more losses because you've hit one of those weird breakpoints on the ladder, and there are a few, where the game does change a fair bit. And what you can expect of your teammates and what you can't does change a fair bit as you get past a threshold. And if you were hanging out, like, one of those places is actually 2900 to 3100, which is a place that I know this guy is at, you can go, or has been at, you can get in situations where you were playing at like 3100, 3200, you fall down to 2900, and the ladder play is different. at that area. And you'll find this in other places in the ladder too. I just mentioned this one because we know that he mentions that he got a review on his 2900 Genji account. So like that's a thing that can happen. The ladder plays a little differently, and your play style that sort of worked at 3100 doesn't work at 2900, or worked at 3000 doesn't work at 2800 because the game is played a little bit. The speed at which people follow up on engagements, for example, is meaningfully different there. It's kind of it's one of those weird spots on the ladder. And there's other spots on the ladder like this. You can find a similar spot on the ladder around 4300. You can find to a lesser degree one around 3900. There's some things there. It doesn't really matter. My point is the game can change a little bit even in some small areas. And you can also combine these. You can go, oh, you start to try to hard carry and that doesn't work, and then you fall further, and then you've fallen maybe 300 or 400 points, and now the ladder is different enough that it doesn't play the same, and you actually do have to make adjustments to your play style. Now, if you're playing everything perfectly, it wouldn't matter. You wouldn't have to make adjustments to your play style. But the reality, and I've covered this in other videos before, is people have different combinations of skills that have gotten them to different points in the ladder. And the example that I've used in the past for this is Lucio. A Lucio who is who is constantly on speed is going to do better at a higher level where his Reinhardt is more naturally going to know how to use that speed than a Lucio that is always, let me rephrase that. A Lucio that is always on speed might do okay when he's playing with a Reinhardt that knows how to regularly make use of speed, which is going to happen more at a higher level. But if that same Lucio falls to a lower level and they just speed bot, they don't know when to swap to healing, they're going to have a worse time. The truth is they were never using their speed correctly. They weren't mixing and matching it for the situation. But their default play style of stay heavy on speed worked better at a higher level than it did at a lower level. And everyone, not everyone, but a lot of people have a little bit of that, where there's pieces of their gameplay that work sort of like that. And the Lucio example is just an easy one to illustrate there. And then you can have other things happen too once you start to self-destruct here. And again, this part is pretty much this is what happens. And then it doesn't have to be these specific numbers, but this is what happens. And then this could be trying to hard carry. Or this could be it as well of, okay, now you've fallen into a different part of the ladder. And because you've fallen into a different part of the ladder, you don't know how to do it. So we can call this minus another 150 because you just don't know what to do on this part of the ladder. It doesn't match your way of playing anymore. Or you can get into, what did we cover here? Different part of the ladder. We covered trying to hard carry. And you can get these in different orders, and then it becomes like, okay, this, then this, then this. And then you have yourself a bit of a mess. And then once you've gotten, as this gets bigger, it just snowballs and makes itself worse, where you get more and more tilted. You believe more and more that you should be able to hard carry. And eventually you'll fall low enough that you should actually be able to hard carry, not yourself all the way back up, but hard carry yourself up. But you'll be way tilted by the time you got there, and you'll also likely do something where you'll start flailing. You end up in a situation where you go, oh my goodness, I've lost so much SR. Let me find home base. What is home base? I know. Let me think of something that was working, and let me just try and discard what I was working on. Let me discard everything. Something that worked for me in the past was this. Let me only focus on getting assassination eliminations. If you're Genji, for example, well, that might have been a successful thing for you. That might be a thing that works. I'm assuming that's not what the player was working on. That might be a thing that works, but that's not the entirety of your playstyle. That's not the entirety of what made up your 3200, 4600, 2900, whatever it is SR. Like, the assassination playstyle was not the entirety of what made that up. And if you go, I'm just going to super focus on this, and you like don't trust anything else, and this is something that happens to some players when they start to go on lost streaks like this, well, that's not enough. Like, that's a useful thing, but in the past when you were doing well, you were using it when it makes sense, and now you like don't trust anything else, so you're just relying on it, which means, oh, let's lose another 100 SR. Or the alternative, whatever you just tried to improve on, whatever you just tried to do coaching with, whatever you were watching streamers doing and seeing they were doing, you go, well, this is the only thing I trust. I don't trust anything about my gameplay at all, so I'm only going to focus on this. I'm only going to do this because I'm losing, but I know they're right, so I'm going to do that. And, well, there's another 200, sorry, let me throw minuses in front of that you can potentially lose because you're in this situation of, well, they were giving you potentially, or you did find something that's important to work on, but you maintaining your SR, whatever your SR was, let's pretend that it was 3,300, was not based on just one thing. Everyone's SR is based on them having a combination of skills. And if you just try to do the one thing, you're not going to get to this SR. You're going to be in free fall because you have to know how to do your evasive movement. You have to know your engagement timing. You have to know how to do your ult. Like, you're going to abandon too many other things. So unfortunately, this is a pattern that happens. This is why something along these lines happens, and then some combination in different orders, sometimes some of them, sometimes others, happens after this, and it's unfortunate. It's unlucky. It's unfortunate. The solution to this is to get out of your own head. You will not get out of your own head by like playing until you win and going, oh, let me just do this. Like, yeah, it could happen, I suppose. It could just turn around and you'll be great. But the way more reliable way to fix this is to stop. You have to stop. If you've got 32 losses, you're well past the point at which you should have stopped. I believe these are spread across multiple accounts, but I don't know that for sure. You need to stop. And you need to take days off. Not like, oh, I'll stop, I'll go to work, I'll come back, and then I'll be better. You won't be. You won't be. You're still going to be panicked, worried about this. You need to take multiple days off. Like, you might even want to take 2 weeks off. But, like, you need to stop playing Overwatch, go do something else. You need Overwatch to actually, like, leave your mind. You need to force a habit reset. You need to be like, I'm not worried about the SR loss. You need to separate yourself from Overwatch for a bit. That might be go play another game. That might be go, travel somewhere for a weekend. That might be go, I do whatever you want, but don't go spend time with a significant other. Like, do whatever you want, but don't think about Overwatch, and don't think about Overwatch. Like, don't even think about it. Don't be reading about it. Don't be watching videos. Don't be watching streams. Don't be doing any of that stuff for like a couple days here at least. And really, if you can afford it, I'd recommend longer. Like, I'd recommend, hey, take a week off. Great, fantastic. If you don't have dedication to a team scrim schedule that you have to be worried about and a team that is reliable, that is relying on you, you should take a break. And I actually regularly recommend, like once every 6 months or so, that players go normally do a habit reset break. They take a couple days off to sort of let some of their unintentional habits clear. This is actually a good practice because when you first come back to the game, you're more intentional in what you do. Some stuff you'll autopilot will kick right back in and you'll do it, but then you'll be more intentional in what you do and it can clear some good habit. It can clear some bad habits that you hadn't even realized you'd pick up. This can happen especially with movement. But that doesn't matter. Like, that's just an added benefit. That's why it's not a bad thing to do this. You need to do this because you need to get out of your own head. You will not play well. You need to take a break. You need to go do other stuff. You need to sort of deprioritize the importance of Overwatch to your mental psyche for a while. And then when you need to come back, you need to not have the expectation that you're just going to shoot back up to GM or Diamond or whatever it is. You need to clear that. You need to not have that. You might. It's totally possible that you will. But you need to not have that. You just need to go, you know what? That was a lot of SR I lost. It's a video game. That's fine. I'm going to play some video game. I'm going to get better at the video game. I'm going to, probably win some matches, probably lose some matches. That's fine. And if you can actually separate yourself from that expectation, you're going to be fine and you will gain it back. You're not going to gain it back overnight. You're going to have lost this faster than you win this back. Almost guaranteed, you're going to win these games back, win this SR back more slowly than you are going to have lost this SR. That's how it works because you played incredibly poorly to tilt this hard for your standard of gameplay, and it's much, much harder to play so far above your level of gameplay consistently for a long time. It's much easier to tilt and play worse than it is to, the equivalent to this would be entering the zone, would be entering zone state. And that's hard. You can't do that on demand. If you can, congratulations, you're a very lucky individual. But this, you just have to accept, is not going to happen. So remove yourself from the expectation you're going to get this back quickly. Take a break. That break is going to help deprioritize the importance of this, how much this stings. It's going to make it easier, and you need to do it. You absolutely have to do this. So this is how this happens. This is why this happens. I know I haven't read the post yet. I'll read the post. I did respond to the post, as well as do a little bit of digging because my name did get mentioned here, and I'm like, oh, who was this, etc. The long story short is it's after coaching. He got coaching on his Genji. All of his panicked posts are about his Zarya. He was also watching other pro streamers, etc. So I don't know if it was his thinking about the Genji gameplay while playing Zarya, or if he's played both of these for the 32 losses or what. Doesn't really matter. It's not like I need to remove myself from this and be like, oh no, it wasn't my coaching, it was someone else's coaching. It really doesn't matter. This does occasionally happen to people when they're getting coached or when they're working on their own improvement. And this is the pattern, and people need to recognize it and stop. And if people reach out to me early, and I wish this guy had reached out to me rather than posting, because I've told other people this when they've run into this problem, and I can save you guys a lot of headache. But now this video is here, and hopefully people will see it. And if you guys know anyone on a lost streak, you can share this video with them if their lost streak gets bad, preferably before it gets too bad, because this now exists in the library as an example of how it works. And I will catch up with you guys in chat there. I'm not ignoring you. If anyone wants to just jump to the front, you guys can throw up the super chat there. Otherwise, I will catch up on chat in just a moment. But I am going to read through the top level post here first, and then show you guys what's here. Okay, so the Good Vibe says, lost 32 games in a row after coaching. Recently, I received coaching for my Zarya and Genji play. I didn't coach as Zarya, so I don't know that. While also learning from prominent streamers and pro players. Before coaching, I could easily hold my own in around 3,300 to 3,100 stably. Now, after using everything I learned, after coaching and watching videos, I have plummeted and lost 32 games across 4 days. I am now almost gold. Okay. Well, this also suggests to me that you're trying to implement too many things at once. You've gotten coaching from multiple sources on multiple heroes, and you've been watching videos. You're probably trying to implement too many things at once on top of everything I just said. We need to build one habit at a time. Build one habit at a time, increase that habit, start to realize the gains even. You don't have to get all the way back up to where you were, but start to realize the gains before you start to work on the next habit. Okay. I am now almost gold. I no longer am able to eliminate anything. I did melted for my positioning. I am deleted on off angles. My entire team is eliminated before I can eliminate enough to win the fight. I get eliminated to stupid things far more often, like my horrible decision making skills and much more. Sorry, a little hard to read, guys. Probably some English second language going on here. But I don't know that. What went wrong? I was almost back in Masters, and now I'm getting shredded by low plat players, having only changed my playstyle in the way multiple GM coaches and even Temporal has told me to. However, even if I return to my old playstyle, I still lose games. You probably aren't actually fully returning to your old playstyle. You're like doing this like halvesy thing where you don't even remember how to play your old playstyle, but you haven't cemented the new one yet. Again, take a break. That's the fix to this. You will revert to something that you do know how to do if you actually take a break. It's like I've become brain dead or something. I have no idea what is happening. It's frustrating to go from almost masters carrying my games. You'd have been masters if you were carrying your games, but okay. To low plat and being stomped. I know if I continue to queue, I will almost certainly hit gold. Take a break. Of course, the reasons for this is because I am not using the advice I got properly. Sure, I'm taking more off angles on Zarya, but should I be right now? Or maybe I went too late or too early? I understand the concepts I've learned, but I have no idea how to apply them, and this has led to me losing every game because I have no idea when or how to do the things I've been told to do. Right. Slow down, work on one thing at a time, seek clarification from whatever source you're getting, whether it's myself, whether it's A10, whatever you're doing. The reason I mention A10 is because I immediately went, well, who is this guy? Did I coach them? I don't know who they were. Looked into their history, and we can see they're in a tailspin. We can see 1 hour ago this post. We can see 20 hours ago struggling a ton on Zarya after changing my playstyle. Recently watched A10's UTGM series with Zarya. He calls for consistent importance of dominating off angles and good bubble management. This is correct. Of course, as low diamond, you already knew this. Did you, though? Then we see this was 20 hours ago, 21 hours ago now. This was 2 hours ago now. This is another post. Again, he's the top level poster. Can't see why I shouldn't do certain things. It feels like a guessing game. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's not. It's a coaching request. It's 20 hours ago, 23 hours ago, getting deleted for taking off Engels Azaria. And then we go back to 2 days ago when he did this, and this was the post that I responded to when he wanted coaching, and it was for his Genji. So that's what we're looking at here. So we can see this guy's in a tailspin, and the evidence of that, if the 32 games wasn't enough, that he's mentally in his own head, etc., is that he's got 4 different posts over 24 hours, top level posts, not like post in his own thread, but like new threads going, help me, help me, help me. And I'm glad we found this one, but like I wish he'd reached out to me. Okay, so that's what we were going to cover here. I will now catch up on chat. Maybe our poster has wandered into the chat. If so, we will see. But let's catch up on chat here. If you guys have questions, you can throw them in there. If you are enjoying the content, please do like and subscribe. We will continue to discuss this, but that's, I expect, is sort of the meat and potatoes of my initial analysis. But let's see where people take this. Congaboom says, yeet, 32 game loss streak. Holy cow, that's a lot of SR. Yep, it is a lot of SR, but I think it's across 2 accounts because when I did this review, it was a 2900 game, but if memory served, he also had another account that he was a little bit higher on. I think that was he talks about it here, 31 to 3300. A full rank and then some. Val says, I did that before, currently on a 15 game loss streak until I found bubble tea. There you go. There you go. So, like, take your break. You know the drill. It was probably his team's fault. The trick is SR doesn't matter. Practice for yourself even if you lose. So, like, SR doesn't matter, and you should be practicing for yourself, and a couple losses don't matter. The problem is those losses will get in your head. Everyone has some level of however thick their skin is, however tilt resistant they are. Almost everyone is ultimately going to get affected to some level by those losses. So if you take too many losses, even if you're making good improvements, even if it is just those first 2 things of, hey, you're doing a little worse because you're working on something, and then you hit a normal loss streak, it's hard not to be affected by that. So it's likely worth taking a break before one of these other things go in, because it's really hard to not be affected by the combination of these things for most people. Don't try to, just one more turn syndrome. I'll win the next one, and then it'll all be better type thing. It's a rough losing streak. I don't think playing tilted is effective for practicing. It's not. And that's what I talked about in 2 of the other categories. You either hold on to the thing you're working on like it's a life raft and you let go of everything else, which isn't actually good practice, or you like try to throw it out, but you're now playing this like half newly molded, half not newly molded version of yourself and your gameplay that doesn't really work either. At least he didn't name and shame the coach. I mean, he did. He said even temporal, and we can see in his previous coach that he's also talking about A10. I don't know if he went and got actual help from A10 or what, but he's clearly watching some A10 streams, and A10 is fairly responsive on stream, so I wouldn't be surprised if he answered some questions for him. 32, it's not normal, must be a troll. I don't think it's a troll, guys. I think he's in a panic, which I understand. It's like stressful. I understand where he's coming from. True, he also doesn't blame the coach. Right. Just because you're not screaming or crying doesn't mean you're not tilted. 100%. Tilted doesn't mean you're like shouting at your computer screen after every time you get eliminated. Tilted, it has a nefarious effect. The poison has crept in. I kind of think this guy's exaggerating as well, Sax. Maybe. Val says, I lost so much SR trying to copy Moth, but worth it. Learned lots. Cool. Can you share some things you learned, Val? That seems interesting. Minus 400 SR before anyone asks. Okay. I think trying to copy pros is tricky. Well, you have to do a little analysis of why they're doing what they're doing and when it makes sense, and you have to break it out into why do some of them do it and some of them not. Is it because they're actually in different situations, or is it other parts of their playstyle? Organized play is so different from ladder. Right, but most of the time when people are copying pros, I assume she was watching Moth more on stream, but no, actually I think now that you mentioned it, she did watch Moth in an Owl match, at least she mentioned earlier, so maybe not. Where would you say the breakpoints are? I wouldn't go over all of the breakpoints. I know some of the breakpoints because I've worked with teams. I would say that there is, like I said, a breakpoint at around that 2900 range. I would say there's a breakpoint in sort of the threshold between real GM and not real GM, which people consider in that like 42 to 4400 range. That breakpoint's a little less hard because as you get high enough in GM, the quality of your games, the people in your games don't really change, but you do find that once you've sort of broken into that 42 to 4000 range, um, that's different than the 4100 range, and what you have to be doing there is different. You sort of, there's more ability to not mess up when you're the low B fill GMs, whereas when you're trying to gain SR, when you're the 4200 plus GM, the 4400 GM, you need to be winning games. Anyway, it's more complicated, doesn't really matter. Other breakpoints, I mean, if you get low enough in bronze, you'll see some of it too. I couldn't tell you exactly where that is. And some of this stuff moves around. So it's like, I'm going to quote these things, and someone's going to respond to this video 9 months later or even 2 months later and say, oh, that's not there. There's a breakpoint here, but it's not here. And they might be right. Like, I know where some of these breakpoints are because I've done coaching, I've seen teams there, that sort of thing. But the ladder moves. So, yeah. James Daly says, as you fall, you will go through all the emotions: denial, isolation, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. I just don't know how anyone would take a break after how anyone wouldn't take a break after like 5 losses in a row tops. Well, it was across 4 days, he said, so maybe his break was okay. Well, I'm done for the day, going to work, etc. But like this guy needs to take multiple days off. If he wants to take 1 or even 2 weeks off, I wouldn't necessarily object. Dave says, I often go up or down 500 SR. It feels random to me. Sometimes I'm playing bad with stats to back it up, yet I'm winning every game. And sometimes I'm on it, yet it's a loss after loss. Got it. Yeah, that happens. Again, there's some random variance because you really control one player in the lobby. James says, if I fall to silver, I turn off chat because I don't think that players at that level have anything of value to say to me. That's fair. Is this a guy we reviewed or somewhere else? Yeah, we reviewed him. We reviewed Genji VOD, and we reviewed it 2 days ago. So it's there on the channel. We can see our post. Uh-huh. Yeah, I'm wondering if Temporal was the coach. I think I was one of the sources. I think this guy flooded himself with information. And I was the source primarily for his Genji. Well, maybe not primarily for his Genji. I did a Genji review for him. I do not believe I reviewed his Zarya. If it was under a different name. And I actually think most of this happened on Zarya based on his posts here being so much about struggling on Zarya after changing playstyle, can't see when should do certain things, getting deleted off angles on Zarya, etc. People who think of themselves as their SR peaks are a bit like past it athletes or musicians who are obsessed with their glory days. Don't stop, double down. uh, Whenever Overwatch tilts me to that point, I rewatch Overwatch cinematics to remind me I still love the game. That might make sense. I would recommend distancing a little more from Overwatch, like trying to emotionally remove a little more, but I could see how that would work. Welp, Will Temporal said, don't even watch videos. Again, I would recommend like sort of emotionally trying to remove yourself a little bit from Overwatch while it's happening. I mean, you can make an exception for watching my videos because my videos are special and wonderful and perfect. But okay, yeah, you get it. Sajid says, just saw the Reddit post. I knew you'd cover it. Did you know I'd cover it because my name got mentioned? Because he didn't do a user mention temporal. I just happened to see it. The title caught my eye. Or is it just that this is the type of thing I cover? I'm curious. Dave, I didn't think you could see what SR you were when it's under 500. Okay. He needs to embrace the hates. That's where all the Sith powers come from. No, the passion. It's not hate, it's passion. That's where all the Sith powers come from. Come on now. They're just wrong. Okay. I thought it just shows less than 500. I believe that's true. that that very guy was part of why they changed it. What started that conversation? Did I say something that started that conversation? The 0 SR conversation? Oh, I remember there was a guy who lost a game at 0 SR and it moved him to 5,000 SR. Yeah, there was someone who did that. It originally they did show sub 500, and yes, someone got to 5,000 SR by looping through the bottom. They fixed the ability to loop, and they also then quite a bit later removed showing SR at the bottom. Uh-huh. Panic Sector says, I can't even throw 32 games in a row. You just got to tilt harder, man. Changed to March 2017, the showing SR thing. Okay. YS says, yeah, at some point in those 32 games, I feel like you'd have a carry teammate. You'd have teammates carry. Yeah, I think you would. But what probably happens is you can start being an active deterrent to your games. Active deterrent, that's not the right word. You can start being an active detriment to your games, especially if he stayed on comms. If this player stayed on comms after they were losing, him being stressed, him not even like snapping at someone, but showing his level of stress, being annoyed and sort of sounding annoyed on comms when a teammate made a mistake or when he got an elimination, but like, his team still lost a fight in an early team fight, he could pretty quickly tilt his teammates. And you're right, to lose 32 in a row, you might have to do a little bit of that. You might have to bring some bad comms. And I don't mean bad comms like you're, again, shouting at your teammates or anything, just that you sound tilted, you sound annoyed type thing. You think you're holding it together, but they can feel your stress, and it makes their gameplay worse too. After a few losses, I'm sure the game throws you a free win. It certainly feels that way. No, it doesn't. That's not how it works. Um, 32 games, that's... Wait, so Temporal did this guy? So he is a Temporal student? Um, his Genji, as a freebie, yes. He didn't follow the 5 to 15% brain power rule. He did not, and he tried to do many things at once, it looks like. He also, it looks like, lost the games on Zarya, not Genji. Honestly, after my coaching, I did fall a bit, but I kind of expected it because I was going to play differently. Exactly. Thank you, Blah. Thank you. 32 game loss streak is impressive in its own way. Okay. Losing SR after coaching, totally his fault. Anyone could have predicted putting on ankle weights equals lose. Smart players would never do that. Calling yourself out there, Valet. Temporal says you will fall after adapting your game style. Many people, not everyone. Some people immediately go on nice win streaks because it's such an important change and they just get it. But yes, it's not at all uncommon for people to lose a few extra games as they're beginning of making adaptations there. I draw the graph somewhat frequently of, okay, you work on the first thing, you get worse because you're focusing brain power on it, you start to get better, you start to get better, you start to get better. You've actually got it at this point. You don't need the SR back, so now you go start to work on the next thing, which causes you to fall. And then, okay, you start to get better, you start to get better, you start to get better, you start to get better. You work on the next thing, and slowly you trend your way upwards. And if you realized each of these gains, it would have instead went to here. And then it would have gone like this, and it would have went to here. And you'll notice, like this, we we perhaps end up at our new height higher, but it's taking us longer. We've only implemented the second thing and we're here, as opposed to when we'd implemented the second thing and we were like here in the first way of doing it, which is sort of once it's implemented, you move on to the next thing, as opposed to once you've realized your SR gains, moving on to the next thing. Maybe the pro players he was watching were in the LA Valiant. No, guys, A10 is good. Does he post a replay code? I feel that we need one. Not in this one. Someone did ask for a replay code though. Let's hit a refresh here and see if we get more posts. Sajid says, I don't think I can even lose 32 games on purpose. Even in a loss streak, you usually get one-sided matches and win here and there. Yeah, it's a bit of an accomplishment. Okay. Still catching up, guys. It's why people this is why people shouldn't watch UTGM. We are watching a breakdown in real time. These people's mechanics carry them to GM more than game sense. Ah, got it. It helps to get a coaching on how to properly throw like a pro. uh, he plays RimWorld, fun game. Okay, okay. Adam Nicholas says, Temporal, why did I do so good in Pugs? Why am I so good at Overwatch? Well, it's because you're in the Overwatch League, right, Adam? Isn't that right? As you always tell us, you're in the Overwatch League, so the Pugs were, kind of easy mode for you, right? Right? I mean, you were definitely the best player there. It definitely wasn't the contenders player that we had in the Pugs yesterday. Anyone who wants to know what I'm talking about, we did host Pugs, Service Grams Pugs on here yesterday. If that's the sort of thing you'd enjoy participating in, you can join the Discord and you can get announcements when we do those things, as we do have a variety of players here. I'm not necessarily saying we actually had an Overwatch League player, but Adam will tell you that we had an Overwatch League player. Maybe we had an Overwatch League player there. A Masters player would destroy gold games? Yes. Even a Masters player playing like themselves. But this player was about 33 to 3100. They'd previously been GM, I think they said, or maybe they'd previously been High Masters. I don't remember. Yeah, peaked over 4K. They'd previously been GM. We got some replies. Okay. Okay, cool. Even in High Diamond would destroy gold games? Yes. But they're not playing like themselves. They're not themselves when they're tilted. Uh, I do think that the correct way to play a hero isn't the best way to climb. For example, Blue Beam, Mercy, and Silver or Gold just doesn't work most of the time, and I have to heal bot to win. We've had this debate. I've had this debate many times, Dave. You can play the game correctly to win. You really can. There's other things you can do. If you want to enhance your Mercy climb rate, getting your Blue Beam absolutely perfect will enhance it, and you will work your way out. But yeah, it makes more sense to take over on comms, or if you have better mechanics than Silver, to pull out your pistol and frag people if you have, say, Diamond mechanics. That said, you can play correctly and climb with her reliably, even in the low ranks. It's not as easy as it is with other heroes, but it can be done. But yes, if you're trying to, if you are far below your SR and you want to maximize your game wins, there are things that you could do to win more than playing correctly. And this gets into recognizing bad habits, recognizing patterns in your opponents, and abusing skills that your opponents don't yet have. It's possible that that's a topic I should cover more on this channel, abusing opponents when you recognize that they don't have skills and how to recognize that they don't have skills and such. And I think as the game develops we'll probably get more into that. Maybe I'll make that a series or something. I don't know. I don't generally go heavily into that when I'm doing reviews, because recognizing how to abuse a player not doing something, I don't want players to then go, oh, so I should always be looking to do this to Zarya. No, you should be looking to do this to this Zarya because this Zarya player doesn't know how to do that, but you don't know that until 2 minutes into the game, and you're going to get 3 team fight wins out of that, which is huge for that game. But you don't then want to lose 3 more games trying to always do that. So we may get more into that sort of thing. But yes, when you're smurfing, when you're doing that sort of thing, the fastest way to climb really does get into that sort of abuse. Try high plats. What will happen if I consecrate on two? What'll happen if I consecrate on too many things at once? Won't it just take longer? No, because you'll tilt. This will happen to you. If you try to focus on too many things at once, you won't have enough bandwidth left in your brain to actually play the game, to handle your aim, to handle your movement, to handle your cover, to handle the things that you already know how to do, and that's going to cause you to lose games, and that's going to then cause you to tilt like this. Don't try to focus on too many things at once. You're also not actually going to make very good progress at all on any of the things that you're trying to work on. We are much, much better when we try to learn one thing at a time and actually learning it. He needs a new gaming chair. It's clearly the chair. Infinity would have stopped a while ago. How didn't he get carried at least once in the 32 games? Again, I suspect he got in comms and tilted people. Maybe not intentionally. Maybe he didn't scream at them or anything, but probably his stress came through. Players think coaching is a magical solution for guaranteed wins. High temporal. Hey, Marcelo. I don't know if players think that. Coaching is pretty good, but ultimately people have to make the improvements. Yeah. James Daly says, low enough in bronze. There are a lot of people who would rather lose than win for different reasons. Sure, sure. What was his name so I can report him for throwing in case he's in one of my games? Blue says 32. Oof. Yeah, it's an oof. Sajid says, I'd say both since you usually cover these posts and also mentioned your name. Got it. So as for why you knew I'd cover it. Tilton Comms is contagious. Yep. Someone tutting and sighing in comms is very detrimental to morale. Absolutely. Okay, so Val, and this is in relation to Moth and what she was studying there, or what she got out of it for her 400 SR loss of working on stuff. Remoth, 1. When doing Mercy Res, look away from the sniper and downwards, not random wiggle. Yeah, that's good. Do not get headshot. Do a quick spin to check up. Do not get headshot. Generally good. Do a quick spin check to update your GA target choice near the end of res. Okay. When doing GA, memorize the positions of everyone. Look away from the sightline while on flight to not get headshot, but it's okay to retarget beam during GA flight time, but do it fast. Yeah, we've covered that. We've covered that in even diamond reviews on this channel. Yep. That said, you can absolutely learn it from having watched another bro. That's perfectly fine. Remoth, predict the path of the mercy target, of the boost target, so you don't miss the chance to get into the best cover. You absolutely have to do that. Better to reposition again than miss your chance. Yes, absolutely. 4, assume the other team will call our mercy's position or flankers planning a flank path, reposition to make the other team's info less reliable. Okay, okay. Yeah, assuming that there's going to be calls playing into their scouting, sure. We have a 4.99 super chat coming in from Adam Nicholas saying, Temporal sucks. He dropped this guy's SR. Watch out. He'll make you a worse player too. Listen to Laura Med and me. I played an owl. He ruined this guy. Thank you, Adam Nicholas. Thank you for the 4.99 super chat. Once again, saying Temporal sucks. He dropped this guy's SR. Watch out. He'll make you a worse player too. Listen to Larup, Met, and me. I played an owl. He ruined this guy. Yeah. Okay. So thank you for that super chat, Adam. I do appreciate it, even if you're lying to everyone. But that's okay. And yes, it was owl footage. Okay. Marcelo says, am I the only one who thinks lost streaks are not that bad? I mean, the lower the elo, the easier the game becomes because everybody is so noob, you can easily destroy the enemy on your own. Right, but you sort of want actually a reasonable level to practice at. If you fall too far, even if you have zeroed, even if you go, hey, I fell too hard, I have no tilt, and it's an easy ride back up, it is an easy ride back up, but your best practice was happening at this level. And so, like, you working on implementing and things, you're not getting punished as you're working your way back up. So these are sort of dead games to you. Where like they're not totally worthless, but these games at this level are more valuable to you for the practice they get. A little bit of loss, no problem, but like all the way down here, not the best because people aren't punishing you when you're not doing it right. Can confirm people being grumpy and calm hurts my morale and makes me come up with insults I never had the confidence to use. Okay. If you're 3300 SR, 2600 games are super easy. Yep. Funny things make me laugh and miss more. Temporal is drawing a chart for what my stock values look like over time, and it's also what people's abilities should look like over time for playing Overwatch or for improving at lots of things. Val says I got 2 accounts to gold, so even when I drop to silver, I can still say, well, I'm still gold, so don't tilt. Yeah, that can help. An alt account can help reduce tilt for people. I do recommend alt accounts. I've never broken and called Widow 37 shots, 1 assist yet. Okay. Adam was playing with 5 to 15% of his brain power and was still the best player because nothing was like Owl. There you go. There you go. Adam was playing using his feet to give us a chance. He would have 1v6 to you. Okay. Okay. James Daly says I only ever use 5 to 15% of my brain power. The rest is used for Overwatch Rule 34 content. Okay, we won't go any further than that. Blue X remembers getting nanobaited. Yeah. Marcelo says, sometimes I find some ex-contenders players, like from 3 to 4 years ago, clearly tilted and playing like gold players and think they're good just because they were pro for one season. Most of the people, well, that some of the early contenders was a little weak. Really what you're talking about is like pre-contenders, usually. And yes, I can think of a few pros like that as well. Few pros who, went from a couple no, I'm not going to name and shame. A couple specific ones came to mind, and one of them has actually done a reasonable job of turning it around. They're not like pro level good anymore, but they had fallen to masters or even below as like a masters one trick, just average masters for that hero when they used to be a pro. But they climbed their way back up and are a reasonably good player again. Though no, they're not a top pro or looking to be, oh, this is what the next contenders team needs to win or anything like that. And there's more than 1 to 2 pros, obviously, that aren't good anymore. But yeah. Lamau, I heard the I need more help up top callouts and pressed Q. Okay. Okay. Mercy not safe for work has more members than Mercy mains. Those are both Reddits. None of them have much good to say, though. I checked, just used Overwatch University. Hey, Sheldon. Howdy. Adam says, I'm going to message this guy on Reddit so I can talk to him about forming a coalition against Temporal, whose name is unworthy even to speak. Okay. Sajid says, I watched a Moth video a while ago and learned to use max beam range and that I don't need to see the enemy, which kept me alive longer. Yeah, not seeing the enemy. Very good. Very good. Val says it cost me 400 SR so far to practice, but simply hearing about it in a video and doing it yourself is different. In my next Mercy review, I insist temporal check my hitbox. Okay. Pro Mercy play is hiding around corners. I mean, yeah. He uninstalled? Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. I'll refresh again. He needed to take a break, but uninstalling isn't like permanent, so that could be fine. Even Contender Season 0 wouldn't drop to gold. Come on. They wouldn't drop to gold. That's true. That's too much. The Contender Season 0 players, there were a couple that could, if they played like they played back then, might be high plat, probably diamond, but they've all gotten, they have, the ones that stuck around in any way, shape, or form have gone better. But some of them, did drop to masters. We can think of certain, Tracer one tricks that then moved on to content creation in other games. We can think of certain supports, main tanks, etc. from that era. The Tracer one trick was particularly egregious, but hey. Okay. There were pros from other FPS games that got stuck in Diamond or Masters. Yeah, Overwatch isn't your standard FPS game. Like it's an FPS, but it's definitely an FPS MOBA crossover, and it's definitely got a lot more team element and a lot less individual win back potential in some ways than other ones. Blux, come on, South America Contender Season 0 players. I don't think South America had a Contender Season 0. Contender Season 0 was a specific thing that happened, and that was back when you had like Cloud9 and Selfless and things like that as teams, and Immortals, not Valiant, Immortals, like Contender Season 0, um, yeah, Contender Season 0, did we have 2 Season 0s? Did we have 1 Season 0 that ended in a LAN? I don't know, but the original batch of Contender Season 0 teams was pretty large and not particularly high level. Like they were fine. They were the teams in North America and such, but we didn't really have a South American contenders. South America didn't really get it until we had the more serious contenders thing. Could just never win. He should never give up until he gets there. Losing is part of the game. Sure, but he should take a break. So 32 loss streak is the point where we should give up. Noted. No, you should take a break. You should take a break and a real break, like a multi-day at least break, before you get to 32 game loss streak. The truth is, if you're a true competitor, you'll never really give up. Right, but that doesn't mean you can't take a break, guys. I don't think High Plat is season 0 contenders level. I still remember playing it. Right, but have you played? I guess you have played High Plat recently because you've done unranked to GM stuff. Um, I'm specifically thinking of some of the particularly weak players, and there was a lot of variance to some of those teams. Like remember Blue that some of those teams, not all those teams, but some of those teams were like they have 2 good players, they have 3 good players, and the rest of the players really aren't very good. Um, so and I'm thinking of for their team they were okay, they were GM whatever, but like for that era we've seen how the latter gets better over time. And you're right. Plat is probably too extreme, but we could certainly get into High Diamond. And we saw even at the time some of those players fell to Masters and couldn't get back to GM. We saw some of the players that would be like, oh, look, you're going to be a Masters Tracer now. You're going to be a Masters Reinhardt now. You're going to be a Masters Anna now. And they couldn't get their way back. And I'm thinking of some of the well, it doesn't matter. I'm not going to name and shame them here. I think you might be underestimating how much the ladder has improved, though, Blue, and how like you've improved too. Like, yes. Um. Hmm. Okay. No breaks. Breaks are for losers. No. He can drop bronze, then do a bronze to diamond educational video. Oh, our 32 lost streak person could do that. That's true. That's true. I find strategy games the best from taking a break from Overwatch, something like Total War. Yep, that could definitely work. Strike first, strike hard, no mercy. Uh, you don't need to take a break if you never tilt 200 IQ, but most people that think they don't tilt still tilt is the problem. And if you lose, just put your student in a headlock, but not in 2021. Okay, I mean, people boosted by friendships, probably yeah, but I think it's still high diamond at least. High diamond at least I could settle on. That's fine. But there were some people who were quite famous for no, they won't bench themselves because they own the spot, and yeah, yeah, and they might have been carried by certain other then later Owl hit scan players who might have carried a certain Washington Justice. That's all the hints that I'll give for the most obvious one. Okay, you always have a single player on the game too. Sure. Wow, you kissed Temporal and Junkrease are similar coaches. Oh, okay. I'm Cobra Kai now, eh? Okay. He posted a replay code. Cool. At Temporal, bait for Temporal. If I got coached really well and beat Adam as Anna, I wonder what his excuse is going to be. Denounce Larmet? I don't think he'll ever do that. He'll never denounce. Temporal reviews the replay code. I might. I might. I'm not gonna do it in this video. I might do it in a separate video. He's not going to name and shame Michael, guys. Stop asking him who the Tracer player is. I'm not going to do it. 2017 and 2021 gameplay is a lot different. GM was like today's Plat or even worse. I don't know that that's 100% true, but like the very bottom of GM might have been like very high Plat. I think something in that range of Plat to Diamond you could get to. Do you think we'll have an SR MMR reset for Overwatch 2? I hope not. Like every game that's done an SR MMR reset almost universally has it's been an absolute nightmare. You don't really want to do an MMR SR reset because like you really don't, guys. What ends up happening if you do a reset, and they might do it because they might go it's a different enough game. In fact, I could see them doing it because it's going to be a different enough game. Yeah, they could. They could. That might be reasonable. I could live with that. Yes, I want to see the review of the replay code. Even one round review is good enough. Uh-huh. Uh-huh. They already said there will be a reset for Overwatch 2. Okay, that's fine. Oh, if you beat Adam, Val, he's going to denounce Larmet, so you better beat Adam. Roll Gaming, okay, says hi. Val is really L too. She just fakes being low SR in her free time. Okay, couple temporal sucks from Adam here. Apex does a soft reset every season. That's nice. What's the issue with MMR reset? The issue with MMR reset is, so like, people complain about Smurfs in their games. You're going to have Smurfs in your games every single time the MMR gets reset, and you're going to have to deal with them existing for quite a long time because people come back to the games at different times. Like, MMR resets have been done in a lot, like, they're the sort of thing, they're sort of like role queue where they get cried for, like, oh, we desperately need this, etc. They're the sort of thing where like fans go, oh, we need this, we need this, we need this, and it's one of those things where you go, okay, cool, they put it in there, and you saw this. I want to say you saw this in Rocket League, but you've seen it in other games too, where it creates an absolute mess for months afterwards in terms of the games that are in the middle, that silver to plat range, are going to just be very, very messy because you're going to have players that are on their way up massively and on their way down massively in much, much greater number than before. If you think you don't have enough control over your, say, plat game right now or your gold game right now, you're going to be amazed at how little control you have over it when the game thinks you are just as good as the 5 other people on your team. But it turns out one person is on his way to bronze, one person is on his way to GM, second person is on their way to bronze, this person is on their way to diamond, and this person is going to be on gold with you. But on the other team, all of them are on their way to bronze. You had no control over that game. Like, you're going to win that game, but you had no control over that game. Except now, that's not going to sort itself out over a day or two because people are going to play at different rates. Some people are going to play 100 games in the first week. Other people are going to play their first game 2 months in, but they're going to be on their way to GM or on their way to bronze, etc. Like, you want as much of the ladder to be as relatively sorted as possible because it gives you the actual ability to be the difference maker or more of a difference maker in your games. And when you do the MMR reset, again, people are going to start playing. It's not like, okay, it's going to be bad for a month and then it'll be good because everyone gets back to where they are. No, because, like, people are going to start playing at different times. People are going to play different numbers of games, and it takes games to get to GM, to bronze, etc. Okay. Okay, why don't you play Overwatch? Because I coach it. Like, I've gotten what I've needed out of playing Overwatch. Playing Overwatch is fine, but like, there wasn't time. Like, I stopped playing when it was like, okay, work my 9 to 5. While working my 9 to 5, also coach professionally. There's not time to then also, like, this was a more than 40-hour week commitment. Coaching contenders was a more than part-time job level commitment. Where am I going to find time to play Overwatch? And if I do have time to do something relaxing, to play a video game, etc., at the time it was not going into more Overwatch. If I was going to put more time into Overwatch, I should go watch another VOD. I should go see what they're doing over here in Korean Contenders. I should go see what one of my potential next opponents are doing. Like, so if I was going to use like mental relax time on something, it was going to be on something that wasn't Overwatch. And I just didn't really feel a need to seriously get back into it after that. And it also doesn't make sense to get back into it after you've stopped for a long while, at least for 2 reasons for me. One of which is like, you know, I have obviously coached the game at a little bit higher level than I've played it at. That's a thing that's happened. So like, my game is not going to be as good as, say, the match between Phase 2 and Atlanta Academy. I can coach at that level. I can't play that game. And my games are always just going to be like, ugh, this is boring and disappointing compared to that. And also your skills atrophy. And it becomes do I want to put the real dozens of hours it's going to take back into this to get my skills back to the level that I'd want them at before the game would sort of be really enjoyable again? Not really. So like I might play occasionally with friends here and there, but not seriously, not in a yes, let's really look to seriously keep getting better and keep getting better and push new heights and things like that. It's like it just doesn't make sense. I enjoy coaching the game, but what I enjoy about Overwatch, I do mostly like the coaching aspect of it. I've had my fun playing it. I think the MMR SSR reset is fine for Overwatch 2, but I don't see anyone would want one in Overwatch. Yeah, I think for Overwatch 2, if the game is different enough, that's totally fine. Right. You don't want to do it for an existing game, though. It would be a matchmaking nightmare. Exactly. Blue says, I don't know about low GM, but when I rewatch my footage from early 2017, it's definitely not high plat. Okay. Overwatch becomes Overwatch 2, though. There won't be Overwatch 1 anymore, sure, but if you're changing the game fundamentally enough to have one tanks, to have a completely different map pool, or like double the map pool, probably a different, and you're changing a bunch of abilities, probably a different enough game to justify. You have low bronze players in lobbies with top 500 players. Right. First couple of weeks will be lobby of bullies. Right. It will be, and the problem is you don't know when those first couple weeks end. Because again, it's not like everyone plays the 100 games necessary to move them where they need to be on the ladder within their first month. People are going to buy the game, install the game, at different rates, and they're also going to get through their matches. Just because you've played 500 matches doesn't mean that the guy that you're in a lobby with has played more than 5 matches, because he might play 1 match a week and he might have started in week 3. Ugh. He's on his way to bronze, but he's in your match, and the game can't tell the difference between you and him in terms of impacting your SR. Temporal sounds really enthusiastic about the subject of Apex. I don't have an issue with Apex. Costa says that Blue X disagree. Whenever I watch 2017 gameplay, it's really bad no matter who. I don't think people really cry from MMR resets. Recently, they haven't. They used to. We've seen, like, they used to in larger number, and then we had a couple games try it. And now there's good evidence of why you don't do it, so the arguments get shut down faster. You used to see more cries for them. You used to see a lot more belief as well in, oh, it's elo hell and the people who are in GM aren't actually better. I play just like the GM, or I play just like the Masters player, but they're only up there because they have better teammates and they couldn't get back up there. Or you'd have the GM players say, this Mercy is boosted, this D.Va is boosted, they got boosted when the hero is broken, and we want to reset to get rid of them because they could never make it back up now that the game is more balanced. Cute that they believed the game would get more balanced after those. But yeah, you used to see more cries for it than you do now. I already answered your question, Roll Gaming. Adam thinks Temporal is bad at coaching, but Adam doesn't really think that. That's fine. Okay. You guys are really at it today. Lots of chat. Only people who convinced through an Elo Hell want an MMR reset, but Elo Hell doesn't exist. Okay, sure. The MMR reset sounds like the Pugs yesterday. It wouldn't be that good, though. Like, the Pugs were fun, even though everyone's SR is wildly different, because everyone's really into it. And there was something about that. Like, for the first bit of Overwatch, everyone was more into the matches and more into playing to win than they were at really most future points in Overwatch's history. And that does have the benefit, but, like, that's not something that necessarily is going to. I mean, you might get that after an MMR reset. You'd probably get some people after an MMR reset trying to tank themselves down to bronze so that they could smurf harder. But like in a pug like this, like I said, there's a sample selection bias with pugs that tends to bring more teamwork oriented people. Blah says, I'm not in Elo Hell and I want an SR and MMR reset every season. In addition to people start at 1000 SR at the start of each season. Okay, I disagree, but you're welcome to believe that. Placements turn into Placement-based SR only, matches which assess where you should be. They should all start at 1000 SR. Then they feel good for climbing to gold. Yeah, that could work. If you wanted to start everyone low and then do a climb thing, I think that has better psychological benefits and would cause people to be less upset with the game. I still don't necessarily agree, but yes, instead of falling from low plat because they randomly won a few games they shouldn't have, yeah, that would be a better way to do it to cause people to be less frustrated with Overwatch. I agree. That will happen anyway, though, if there's a big influx of new players who all start in gold. Sure, to some degree, but degree matters here. It really does. Temporal, who would you send as your champion against me in the Anna Paintball 1v1 to decide the fate of your realm? I mean, who would I send? Like, there's dozens of people. If I had to decide the fate of the realm, I'm still not too worried. Like, there's dozens that we could pick. I mean, Blue's in chat. Blue, do you want to take him down? Like it's not that it's not that rough, Adam. I can go. Should I reach out to Khan? What do you want me to do here? Like, okay, doesn't matter. We don't have big influxes of new players anymore, but we will for Overwatch 2, or returning, but effectively new. I think it made sense for players to initially be placed. Like, I don't think it was wild, James, for players to initially be placed into gold, but I think that's the sort of thing where that made sense potentially. I do prefer Blaz, but that made sense potentially at the beginning of the game's lifespan when when there's a huge player base and the average joining player, everyone, no one has like played the game for years more than anyone else. Now the ladder has just gotten better, so someone who just freshly joins is almost certainly not the middle of the pack anymore. So like as the game aged, they needed to move down the insertion point. Would be my take there. Even when the game is on sale, you see more alt Smurf accounts than new players, sure. Your average level 25 has no business in high gold anymore, I agree. But when the game first came out, I don't think that was as big of a issue. But I agree, it psychologically would have been better if they'd started people lower and just sort of let them accelerate the climb a bit more there. Sure, Overwatch 2 reset, not for Overwatch. Fine. I don't want a game with a bronze, silver, gold, and top 500 all in the same matches. No one's saying Overwatch 1 should have one now except Blah, it looks like. We don't think less of Temporal even if he was bronze. I appreciate that, Val. But remember, I'm like special wood tier below bottom 500 league, right? Right? Okay. Overwatch 2 will be really different. No 2CP, new heroes, one tank. Right. I think there's enough changes to justify it. I do hope that they have a better entry point, though. I think plus, the lower level entry point, well, perhaps not perfect from a math standpoint, is better to have the low level entry point and let people climb pretty quickly if necessary, rather than start them in the middle, which is going to be too high as time goes on. And if they do start in the middle, I hope they move it down as the game gets older, and they didn't for Overwatch 1. No, I mean the 2017 diamonds will be 2022 golds. And yeah, people will be furious about that. People who played like just for a few months when Overwatch first came out, but I think that was 2016, and were diamond will be furious that they're only gold or even silver in Overwatch 2 when it comes out. Yeah, that's going to happen. And that's a bit of a problem. Don't get me wrong. I think Overwatch 2's path to success is about getting people into their game, getting them to play the PvE, and then leaving them when they stop playing the game with good feelings about PvE, so that they have good feelings about PvE, and their good feelings about PvE transfer to Overwatch in general and to Overwatch League. I think that would sort of be the Overwatch League success story right there. But you're right. There's going to be some bad feelings about they were this, they're now that. But also, do keep in mind that there's going to be a lot more players if it does well. And if there's a lot more players, like if they came back and played right now, just one or two at a time, yes, they would be much worse. They will still be worse, but they won't necessarily be significantly worse if let's say the existing population is 30 and the joining population is 60. Well, this will have a huge impact on moving around the ladder distribution. So no, maybe they won't be that much worse, even though the 30 that are here are much better than, when it was 90 in the original game type thing. I hope that makes sense. That happens a lot right now. New players get placed in gold, don't belong there. Get discouraged. You're practicing May, having some fun. Oh, so you were Bastion scrims yesterday. Now you're practicing May. You just want to take all of people's fun away. Okay. Blue is leveling up his Smurf. We did send a cross-platform host to him yesterday as he was doing that. We thought he was playing the Diablo beta. Apparently not. Okay. Placement matches should just move players more. It's really hard to do, though. It's really hard with your placement matches, whether it be 5 or 10 matches. It's really tough with 5 to 10 matches to determine where a player should go when there's 12 people in a lobby. Like, it's really hard to get enough information out of that. Unless you do it heavily based on performance-based, and performance-based is pretty gameable because it's not only is it gameable, it's also not right. Like you can have situations and like it's very unlikely that Blizzard is going to find the right stats to track because you can have situations where okay, Reinhardt is taking anyway, you can be playing wrong but it's right for that match type thing. Like okay, most of the meta involves I don't know, a lot of team fights, but your team isn't playing in a way that allows for a lot of team fights. So the correct thing for you to do is to maximize cart stall, for example. So you're taking more damage, and taking damage is bad for performance-based SR. Like there's stuff like that that matters. You give them more credit than I do. 4 times performance-based SR. You give them more credit than I do for Blizzard being good at determining what are the good performance-based things. Yeah, like real performance-based SR. Again, you guys give them too much credit. CarQ and Jane had videos of them reviewing their old games and laugh at how bad high elo was compared to what it is now. Right. I didn't see those videos specifically, but I'm aware that they exist and I'm aware that the ladder's gotten better. And it does that in all games. Like I remember playing StarCraft and it's like, oh yeah, pretty respectable at StarCraft 2, etc. Took a few year break, came back and played it. Actually got much better, but in getting much better after I'd taken my break, it was like, oh wow, I'm lower than I was, but I'm clearly a much better player than I was after putting some real effort into getting better at it type thing. Anyway. If you have a bad season, I bet you can easily place players in a rank between bronze and diamond after 10 matches pretty reliably based on their performance numbers alone. I mean, probably. I think there's definitely like you have to that's probably true. There's definitely going to be collateral damage where it's like, no, this player is playing correctly, and I can tell you that they're playing correctly, but Blizzard's numbers aren't going to do a good job of that. You could make it advanced enough that it could, but it won't be. It wouldn't keep up with adapting stuff. Like, what level of collateral damage are we willing to accept? What level of this player should be in diamond, but now they're in gold because their performance-based SR isn't perfect? Maybe. That might be worth it from a greater good standpoint. If you have a bad season, you can eject and wait for the next season, or you can just climb normally after your placements. If you have a bad day, that's in your setup where you reset every season to like 1000 SR, sure. Okay, 105 placement matches on a new account, only got placed 2800, right? 5 to 10 matches is a small sample size, and it's hard to measure impact in a game with 12 people, right? Find your stats are higher on losses, sure. The placements don't have to be perfect. Their goal is just to get you close to the right ballpark instead of what they do right now, which is just five hidden SR games. No, they do more than that. They are using your quick play MMR in part to to even pick where to do your placement matches. You can game it by being like, I'm going to do mystery heroes all the way up, and okay, then you've cheated it, but it's looking at your quick play. So I don't think PBSR is too accurate. I don't know though. I'm not. I don't think it's amazing either. They have data from levels 1 through 25. Should just use that to place new players. They use it to. They do. They do use it to, like, you have an MMR, guys. When you go into your first placement match, you already have an MMR. They might not have a high level of certainty in that MMR, and your placement matches might be able to move it a fair bit, but they already have an MMR for you, just not with a high confidence level to it. When you only lose 15 SR from a loss instead of 25, the performance-based R is giving you a 10 points. No, it's not. That's not exactly what's happening. What's happening is the game. So this is how confidence intervals work. The game believes that you're here, and if you lose a game, let me rephrase this. So like you have your SR and you have, so let's call this SR. Let's say your SR is here and your MMR is actually up here. And then you have the confidence interval. And your confidence interval is wide right now. Your confidence interval is like, I'm not too sure what your MMR should be. And like, when you lose games, it doesn't expect you to lose. If your MMR is up here and your SR is here and you take a loss, that, yes, is going to move your SR down a little bit because it has no choice. And it might move your MMR down quite a bit too because it didn't expect you to lose that game, especially if it's unconfident like this. But what's actually happening is if your MMR was way over here and you took that loss, it would have moved you much bigger. So like that's what's going on. And if you lose a game, you're not, I don't want to say supposed to lose, but if you lose a game and it really surprises it, it's going to get less confident in your MMR. Your MMR is going to be a lot more shiftable if you start. This is sort of what happens with win streaks, where the game gets less confident that it actually knows what your MMR is. It knows what your hidden value is. So it starts get willing to move you up a lot faster, or if you start losing a lot, down a lot faster. Like that's what's going on when these things happen. So yeah, when you're like, hey, I lost and I only lost 10 SR, sometimes it's because the balance of the SRs of the two different teams was such that your team was actually expected on balance to not do terribly well in that game, so you don't lose it as much. But sometimes what's going on is you just have an MMR that's a fair bit higher, and it's like, yeah, we don't buy it. We don't buy it. We think this was a bit of a one-off. We're still pretty confident type thing. Or now it made your brackets less confident, but it didn't move you very much type thing. James says, I actually think bronze has improved the most. Yeah, bronze used to mostly be people with computers that really weren't working. Looking at some VOD, stuff like quickscoping, super jump, and taunt combos happened in bronze. Yeah, those aren't necessarily the most important things to have improved on, but yeah. Performance numbers change depending on other factors in the match, right? List metrics usually say a DPS Moira is great. Agree, James. That's why I don't think PBSR is accurate. Only initial placements seem to matter. After that, it's just 5 hidden matches. I've seen people throw quick play though, and it makes no difference to comp placements. That's not true because the performance-based SR is even being run in the quick play matches. They've confirmed quick play and arcade all have separate MMRs. Right. That, but that doesn't mean what you think it means, YS. Like them confirming that quick play, arcade, and comp all have different MMRs doesn't mean that if they have zero comp data, they don't take this to populate it. It then drifts as its own independent entity as soon as you have any. And if you way boost up your quick play MMR, it's not going to affect your comp SR. But if they had no data, they're going to they're going to populate it from this to give them something to start with. It's its own independent track, but if they have nothing for this, they're going to use this. You could then move this up, you could move it down, it won't matter. But until you've played that first game, they're going to pre-populate it with that. Okay. Okay. That covers that. Oh, we have comments here. Right. We've gone on for a bit. That's fine. Okay. Fine. We did our comment. Good Vibe says, thank you so much for the advice. I've decided to uninstall Overwatch until I've achieved some other basic goals in life, like going out to eat with friends and visiting family, and will not return to anything Overwatch related until all of those tasks are done. I haven't played in 2 weeks, or maybe I'll completely forget about Overwatch and only will return when something reminds me later. Thanks again for the advice. It'll be a lot of fun to start crushing these lower level players on my way back up the ladder. Don't make this the expectation, but okay. Non-toxic says your mental is everything. I would also suggest coming back after you break on an ult, or even playing a little quick play or something with zero pressure, where you can get your confidence back a bit. If you got there before you can do it again, you are good enough. But all of us get in our head sometimes. For my own climb, I once dropped it 100 SR, then gained 1,000 back in about 4 weeks. Hopefully, stuff like this doesn't happen often, but it happens. Okay. Post a video of both styles. He did post one. Top 500. Yeah, that was the Genji name. Almost wants to blame losing on sleep deprivation because, well, that doesn't help. You got the yips. Sure. That's not what he means. Okay. And then this was that. Okay. That's going to do it. Okay. Super Jump is completely overrated. Macro stuff is more important. Mostly true. Is Genji going to review the Throwing Genji gameplay? Not right now. I might review it, but I'm not going to review it right now. You can only do a super jump when nobody's looking. You can only turn invisible when nobody's looking. Yeah, okay. That's going to do it. I'm going to go ahead and call this one here. If you guys have enjoyed the content, please do like and subscribe, as that really does help out. If you have a friend or someone who's tilting in the future, remember this video exists. I think I threw it in the Ask Temporal playlist, so you can find it there in the future if you need to, and you can perhaps share it with them to get them to stop tilting. Yeah, or if you're looking to get coaching that preferably doesn't eventually doesn't eventually lead to, perhaps in some small way, forget it. If you want coaching, join my Discord in the description below. See what rates look like, see what sort of promos, special events we have going on, all that good stuff. And Blosso's Temporal can help you tilt better. Fair enough. Okay. Thanks, guys.